Hey, America, welcome back to another episode of Contra-Dictions. We're coming to you late tonight on Monday. We got a whole lineup for you tonight. We're going to talk some cannon hitting, the election updates, Portlandia is still going on, the mail conspiracy, and maybe a little bit of the DNC if we can get to it. So let me introduce my fellas here. We got Kenny on the stream.
What's up, everybody?
And Glennon, how you feeling?
What's going on? Feeling wonderful, everybody. Yep, a lot to talk about tonight. Can't wait to get into it. And yeah, I figured, I know there's, again, a lot of things to talk about. Figured we would just start off really quick. It's an exciting time right now. Figured we start off with something that's kind of exciting, but maybe a little bit of controversial toward the tail end of it. The DNC is tonight. The Democratic National Convention starts tonight. It's going to be running all week. Pretty interesting stuff here. Got some major hitters. The Democratic Party is bringing out all of the top guns headlining the speeches. This evening, we have Michelle Obama. We got Bernie Sanders. They're trying to get them progressives on deck early.
The tree falls in the woods.
Yeah, right. So I think Michelle Obama is probably going to generate a lot more interest probably than Bernie Sanders, unless you're one of those far left progressives. But everybody, they've got the major hitters: Bernie Sanders, Michelle Obama tonight. I believe tomorrow night they're going to have AOC, if I'm not mistaken, and Elizabeth
Kerry, Chuck Schumer.
Yeah, Chuck Schumer. Then, yeah, of course, then obviously they're going to have the Clintons are going to be speaking on separate days. You've got Obama that's going to be speaking. You know, you've got the regular usuals, and then you also have some of your local people. You know, you've got your Stacey Abrams, and then you've got your House speakers. You know, obviously Nancy Pelosi and all those characters.
We'll do a recap of the whole convention probably next show. Once we get all the highlights from it, and pick at it a little bit. So we'll come around back to it again.
For sure. And just really quick, I did just want to say, because I personally kind of feel like the Democratic Party is, I don't even want to say in shambles, but I kind of feel like their identity isn't as clear cut as what it used to be, in my opinion. And so there's been some sort of talks going on with this Democratic National Convention, because aside from all of the speakers that they have scheduled, they've got a lot of performances, a lot of people. And I think in this time, I think people want to be able to turn on the TV, see some of their musical influences, see some of their favorite bands performing and things like that. And that's all cool and great. But at the end of the day, I think America wants some substance. You know what I mean? They want to hear what these Democratic leaders have to say. They want to hear some plans of action that they plan to implement if the Democratic Party, the Biden-Harris ticket, wins the election come November. So yeah, what do you have on that, Kenny?
I mean, first of all, I think they did a good job of obviously kind of circling the wagons per se. They got, a lot of the hitters there. I'm wondering how it's going to, it's interesting because they're having Bernie and a couple of more leftists go first, and then they are bringing AOC in day 2, and then their last day is pretty much all fundamental liberals, except for they did throw Elizabeth Warren in there. So it's kind of like they kind of space those 3 out, I think.
No Tulsi Gabbard?
What'd you say?
No Tulsi Gabbard?
No Tulsi.
But
everybody would love to see her speak.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be interesting. I want to see substance. I think the Democrat substance over the years has been promises. So I expect to hear free college. I expect to hear a lot of socialist ideas. Like what? Like making like paying the college players. They're going to want to reinstitute Obama. I think they're going to want free college. I think they're going to want free, and we'll see if it's single payer health care. That's what Kamala Harris had supported before. So it's going to be interesting to see what that says. It's crazy enough, but I actually want to see what they're going to do for the Black community. I'd like to see if they have ideas around, infiltrating money in there, kind of like different than the Opportunity Zone, maybe a contrary idea that's similar, but with a liberal, from their people in charge. So it'd be nice to see if they have any ideas about how to really lift up people from the lower middle class. Not to go long on this, but I actually did read Biden's tax plan. If it's actually done as it's written, I don't actually think it's terrible. It actually seemed more conservative than I expected. I'm not ever for more taxation. I think we need to rein in the spending, but obviously with the coronavirus and stuff, there's going to be a big hole in the middle of the street there. So we do have to do something for it. And so it's going to be interesting, but I want to hear, comprehensive plans. I want to see what they're going to say about, how they're going to end this pandemic. I don't really think there's an answer to that. So I think they're going to skirt around. It's going to be a lot of anti-Trump, which is fine. I'm sure the Republicans will be a bunch of anti-Biden stuff. We'll see if they can make any jokes and if they get any funny zingers. I'll give them shout outs for zingers, but I do want to hear substance. And so we'll see what they have, because I can't even think of much outside of reinstituting, kind of going back Obamacare, and then the healthcare, and then the free college. So those are the only things that I'm thinking. I can't even think of anything else off the top of my head.
I think we should drink every time we hear the word free.
Oh, we're gonna have. We should do a live stream maybe on Wednesday. We'll do a live stream for an hour, and we'll have a bingo chart, and we're gonna do that during the debates for sure. And have every time Trump says something like the greatest, that'll be some hyperbole.
Bingo Wednesday, baby.
And then every time Biden goes,
I'd be there for words on the bingo chart. Yes.
Yeah. And so, and on the bingo chart, he's going to go, oh, what's Biden's line when he's like, oh, man. He goes,
Trump also
come on, man.
Yeah, come on, man. Yeah, that's Trump also uses the whenever he's telling a story and it's going to be a story that he's inundated by, or that highlights something that he may have done, he always starts it off by, well, this person approached me and they said, sir. So anytime he says sir, he's going to be something. Just watch it, you'll see.
And any inappropriate comment about hair on his legs or sitting on his lap, anything that has to do with touching or smelling anybody.
or if he says he messed up. I messed up.
If Trump or Biden mispronounce any mispronunciation, and that alone should get us drunk on this mispronunciation.
You know what's funny? Hey, look at what Trump created. He created all this. Now everybody's gonna literally be sitting there like this, paying attention to every word.
I don't know if y'all heard today. Did y'all hear today? Joe Biden said, man, if we don't get this thing together, it's going to be exponentially dangerous. Exponentially.
Hey, man, that's the word in 2020.
I'm pretty positive that's not how you say that word.
Oh, it's a word in 2020, Kenny.
Exponentially.
You can go out on the street, you'll exponentially agree with him.
All right, well, I'll go ahead and be the first one to kind of kick into the Cannon Hit It, and I might be saying his name wrong. Here's the deal. It is a false equivalent. I put a post out, and I kept getting a whole bunch back about how this is a false equivalent because this guy's killer ended up getting arrested. Well, this guy's killer was not a police officer. So the point was whether the media's attention was justified. I felt like that is quite a story, to have somebody walk up and just shoot somebody. And the idea behind it is that it's based on just his, maybe a BLM guy who, just wants to kind of get back at white people in general. Now, I don't know if that's true or not. But regardless of the reason, it should be a story because it's something that we should all gather together against and support against. I believe 99.9% of people are on the right side on this. Just like when George Floyd got killed, 99.9% of people were on the side of arresting this officer. Now, people have to understand when you're dealing with a police officer, they have unions. Those unions make it very hard to not have bail. They make it, or to not have, bail. So, or bond. So those things are very difficult to have that way. It's very difficult to get a police officer and have him arrested the next day, especially when there's drugs involved, where in the kid's situation, clearly he's a little kid. Somebody walked up and killed him. He didn't do anything wrong. George Floyd, yes, had written a bad check and was high, but that wasn't, it didn't justify it, but a cop didn't walk up and just shoot him as he was riding on a bike. So as he held him down and then George Floyd died, you had to have the autopsy done. The autopsies had to come back. They did. They charged the police officer. And so the difference is that, and I think most people who were posting this, and myself included, it was really more about, man, can you imagine if it was a white guy who'd walked up and just shot a little black kid on a bike? It would have been there would have been massive outrage. And this thing died in about a day on the media. And outside of Facebook, I didn't even know this guy's last name until today. So, and yes, it went through the social media about the same way that it should. And I think it's appropriate if it fades away. The guy got arrested, and I think justice will be served. But justice is ultimately served once he gets found guilty, which is the same thing that me and Glennon have said before for the police officer that had killed, for the police officers that killed George Floyd. Once they get found guilty, that's when the justice is really served. Go ahead, Glenn.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. I agree. I agree with 100% of what Kenny just said. And I do think that, had this been the reverse, and you get people that are trying to compare it to like the Tamir Rice case and things like that. It's apples to oranges. Look, I know, guys, as much as I hate to say it, like, I'm a black guy, I get it, right? And you want to compare that, but it's just not the same. For one, when you're talking about a police officer shooting somebody, a police officer, just like Kenny said, because of unions and because of qualified immunity, there's a much higher level of due diligence that goes into that investigation. Now, I believe that all citizens, cop or not, deserve that level of due process in any sort of situation. But it's just the way our society is. They're gonna give a higher level of due process to the police officer. Now, the fact that the black guy, he was arrested relatively quickly, it just is because of exactly what I just talked about. And luckily we actually have somebody, because this could have been a case where, they could have came up, shot somebody, ran off. And we could have a fugitive situation going on right now. So everything that Kenny just said was spot on. And what's actually sad is behind the scenes, when we were talking about what we were going to discuss earlier on the show, and Kenny had brought up Cannon, false equivalency. And what's sad? About 3 days ago, Cannon Hennett's case, it was a headlining case on all platforms. So now it's still the headlining on CNN, at least it was earlier. Who knows? Things are headlines and then they're off so quickly. But 3 days ago, it was a headlining story. And then when I was looking at it yesterday, and I just typed in Cannon because I didn't even know his last name, all Nick Cannon and all his stuff popped up. And like all of this, his nonsense about, the Jewish comment that he made and denouncing Louis Farrakhan and all that stuff popped up. So that kind of goes to show. Yeah, absolutely. And it goes to show that the media really does have a lot, so much. I would venture to say maybe 95% of the way Americans view things and the way the narrative is put out there. And we all know media controls narratives, but this should be a top story. I mean, America should be outraged, just like George Floyd. And let me take that back. The reason why America isn't outraged is not like a full-fledged video of the kid being shot. And I think if America would have saw it like how they saw George Floyd, that would be different. And it's unfortunate, but I just want to be honest. But we didn't see Freddie Gray, and there was an outrage and there was riots. We saw some of the Tamir Rice, but I mean, but I agree. Actually, one of the things that you said that I really think is great is that we do all need, and it's one of the things that bothers me about police and other people who have power, politicians. They have a better level of what's the word I'm looking for? Due process than we do. And that's a problem. I really think all citizens deserve due process, the same that a police officer would get. And it doesn't work like that, right? A lot of times they're super quick to arrest us. And
I'm pretty certain the due process.
And they're super slow to arrest cops.
You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
They didn't have to wait too long to get this guy. It was an open and shut case. It wasn't like, hey, there were 3 guys there. We don't know which one pulled the trigger. Right. It was one guy. And
we're thankful for that. I mean, and it's an unfortunate situation. It's very sad, but And it's not too late. I mean, this is a 3-day-old story. The media can still start blasting this thing. I mean, let's be honest. Ahmaud Arbery was murdered February 23rd. That happens to be my father's birthday. The story didn't really begin to take place until the beginning of May, end of April. So,
when
once the video came out. Yes, well, the Breonna Taylor didn't take quite as long.
No, I'm just saying,
Arbery
it didn't take off until the Breonna Taylor hit. Like, it really didn't get traction.
Right.
Since social media pushed it, this thing has no click weight to it. The truth is, I think this case dies. And you might see a blip.
But that's crazy. So let me ask you something, because to me, do you think that in American culture or American society, a Black person killing somebody, white or not, has been, I guess, normalized? Like, it's not a story? I mean, do you think that, like, what do you think is the reason behind that? Because this should be a headlining story for weeks. And this is crazy to me.
Here's the thing, is when we all agree, I mean, they had to change the narrative on the George Floyd case because everyone agrees that this is horrible. So once you've seen it for a couple of days, we go, man, nobody agrees with this kid being shot. There's no counter side to it, right? And so they don't want people to gather together and go, hey, we've got to be against violence. Let's figure out what we can do. So it doesn't serve their narrative of divide and conquer, because if everybody agrees, it's kind of like if football had one team, right? If everybody played and nobody won, we would not have nearly as many fans, right? If you had two teams, you wouldn't have so many. Because what if you don't like the two teams? You're just like, meh. But that's why they got 30 different teams. And when you watch something, you want to hear a contrary opinion so you can argue about it. Same reason we have this show. This show with me and Fred would be us just nodding our heads a lot, right? So people want to have some sort of division. So I think that's why with the George Floyd thing, that's why everyone agreed until people started rioting. And then people were divided on whether it's acceptable to riot due to this and how long, or whether you should be able to burn stuff, whether you should be able to hurt people, whether you should be able to do this, whether you should be able to do that. And then that's what we all debated. Nobody debated on whether or not the cops should be arrested. I mean, everyone that I talked to, 100% of the people that I talked to were in agreement. So they didn't want to keep that narrative. It went immediately to the riots. And so that's why I think it is. I think it's sad because I think it does send a disrespectful message to Black people that it's, oh, just, another Black person shot somebody, no story.
Right.
And I think that it sends I don't think that, again, I know the narrative is the race thing. I always put that second. You got to prove to me that, because I don't like this simple solution. I always want to dig to different levels. This guy knew them. I feel like there's something else going on. Now, you don't kill a kid unless something is vile. So maybe this dude's got mental problems. Something seems amiss here. And I'm going to go ahead and take the side that it was not racially oriented until I find his Facebook littered with Black Lives Matter stuff where he's saying on blogs, I'm going to go get me one today. Then all just like the Arbery thing, I think you got to show me first. I'm going to do it the same way, whether it's white or Black. I'm always going to defer to not racism first. And then if once I see it's racism, then I will definitely call it out. But I just don't want to jump to a conclusion. And
I'm glad you brought up Ahmaud Arbery, because, when I actually saw the video, my gut feeling just was that it was racism. But I was one of the few Black people that was a little long-winded in coming out and saying that it was racism. I didn't think that it was right, but I didn't think that it was necessary. I thought that it was a racist town altogether.
You brought that up in our early episodes, Glenn. I remember.
Yeah, because there was proof of discussions of the neighborhood, having conversations on Facebook saying, anybody that doesn't belong here, that sort of thing. That does allude to a certain sense of, to a certain train of thought. And so at that point, I was like, okay. And then once it came out that he stood over top of the body and yelled racial epitaphs and this and that, I was like, all right, cool, it's confirmed. Now, there's been so many times that, as a Black person, I'll see something happen, something totally egregious. And I think especially if it's like a white person on a Black person or something like that, and instinctively or instantly, it's not like an instinct, but I'm like, oh man, that motherfucker must be racist or this and that. I've done that so much, and it hasn't been the case.
I mean, that's kind of the norm nowadays, right?
Yeah, and then you kind of get pie smudged in your eye when you find out that the person's just an asshole or a bad person. The race. It could have been a white kid, a black kid, you know.
Well, it's hard because most of the time you don't even get that final answer. It's kind of like the Karen story with the black guy in the park. Me personally, I didn't see it as race. I just saw her as a nagging Karen.
See, I saw that as race.
Because I thought that she felt like that kind of society that would have helped her cause. But her saying that, you know, is different than if she would have said an actual racist comment to him. Or like, to me, there was no doubt she was a liberal to begin with. And then you go and there's no, you know, to me, if you're a racist, like people are gonna know.
You're not gonna hold back. You're not gonna hold back. There's gonna be some words dropped.
So this is the thing. I want to kind of this is nuance here. We're not gonna spend too much time on this, but what we're talking about right now. So, and I think most liberals would probably, if you ask them if they were racist, they'd probably say no. You know, they probably feel like they're on the virtuous side, if you will, or they're on the right side of things, and Black Lives Matter and this and that, right? And so maybe that particular Karen, I think it was Amy Cooper or something like that, Central Park, I think she would say that she's not a racist, and maybe she's not a racist, right? Maybe she's not a racist, but in that very moment when she was being challenged by a man, I'm not even going to say a black man, but she was challenged by a man, she knew instinctively that she could weaponize his color against him on the phone with the police to use it. So even though she's not like a racist person, she's not like walking around calling people nigger in her head.
Right.
She doesn't, you know what I mean?
But
she knew that she could, she knew that she could use the race card to her advantage in that situation, because typically it doesn't go the favor of black men.
In under 5 minutes, if she said, "Hey, I'm a white woman and this black man's attacking me."
Well, again, and that's what she felt. I don't know if that's even, you know, we don't know because the situation they ended up leaving the scene. So it was there, but it's just interesting to me because we don't ever know if it actually would have worked or not, but she certainly tried to do it, which again, to me, goes to the liberal mindset of, you know,
always being right.
Oh, you can't vote for this person if you're not this color. I mean, they circle a lot of things in color. Now, you can say it's for good reason, and it's funny because I did a post the other day that said, I don't care about your race. Now, that might bother some people because they go, well, that's the problem. You don't care about race. It's like, well, when you only focus on race, that seems pretty racist to me. So, you know, you can't win for losing. People are going to argue whatever side they want to argue, but
okay, guys, do you want to move on to the election updates, or do you want to go right into Portlandia first? Which one do you guys want to do?
Election's pretty quick. I mean, I don't think there's anything that new. I know Trump closed the margin on the joint or on the battleground states.
Battleground states. He's been traveling the past 3 days. He's been traveling. He traveled to 3 different battleground states. I think he still has a state or 2 to go. He's still traveling right now, trying to what was that?
I said Wisconsin, and I think he went to Arizona right after that.
Right. And so he's trying to dismantle the whole DNC and what they have going on. And that's not like a primary, that's not like a primary goal of his, but I think it's strategic in that the DNC is starting. And so now he's kind of fighting for these battleground states alongside all this mail-in ballot stuff that's going on. And I know we're going to get into that as well too. But I think that Trump, he's closed the gaps in terms of the polls, but we all kind of agree that the polls don't really mean much. I mean, I think they mean different things for different time periods. But in terms of like their accuracy, like, oh, this person's up in the polls, and doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to win. But it does send a message to Americans. Oh, this person's up in the polls. So what I've actually seen it do is it fires Americans up to go and vote the opposition, right? So if they're saying Trump is down, it's going to lead more people to go vote for Trump.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see it that way, but I can see how somebody could see it that way. Here's what I find interesting, and this might not make Republicans very happy, but I'll add this to the stream right now. And to me, again, I just messed that up. Let me go back.
Trump versus Biden.
This is called the no toss-up state. I don't believe it's going to go this way. So if you go to the RCP, this shows where people are leading at. I honestly believe that Florida is going to, gosh, dang it. That's not what I'm trying to do. My apologies, people.
There you go.
Where did it go to? The other day I was able to, here we go. That's what I was going to go. Let's go to, There's one that said my map before, but now it's not doing it. So fantastic. Anyways, here you go. Create your own map. And so that's what I was going to do. So I believe that that's going to go Republican. I think Georgia's going to go Republican. I think North Carolina is going to go Republican. I think Texas is going to go Republican. I think Arizona is going to go Democrat. I think Nevada is going to go Democrat. So this is mostly based on polls where they're close, plus the history of the voting. This is really,
man, I think it's going to come down and I think this is pretty spot on. I mean, it's if you're just basing it off of past trends. I think again, Florida is going to be. So
I actually believe that. And you can certainly pick at it how you want, and I can change whichever one you want, Glenn. But this is the problem I see for Trump, is that he's got to win the ones he's going to win, okay? He's got to win Florida, and then he has to find a way. Wisconsin's very close right now. He took it last time. But it's still, if he takes it, right now it's really looking like it's going to come down to Pennsylvania and Ohio. Because that's 38. He took Iowa last time, just barely. Missouri, actually, I think he took Missouri. But let's just say that one goes. We'll give one of those to each. But you got 3 of them, and Michigan. I looked at it the other day. It looks like it's going to go Democrat. It went to Republican last time. It really is going to depend on whether he can get in there.
Ohio looks like they're going to go Democrat as well. Pennsylvania is going to be that's.
So let's look at Ohio. I think it was 5 points. Is that right? No. It's actually, so Trump just took the lead there.
Oh, wow.
In the latest poll, but that was super close. And so PA. So I thought maybe Ohio looks like it goes slightly red, and then Pennsylvania. I believe last time I looked, I think they were up by 5. So right then, that difference, that Pennsylvania difference. I mean, look how close. There's a lot of them that Trump needs to take. So Trump is very good at winning the very close states. And this is going to kind of lead us into, and maybe we'll do the USPS conspiracy next. But it really, to me, it's going to come down to Pennsylvania, Ohio, Michigan, of course, Florida. Florida's a no-brainer. Trump cannot win without Florida. What's interesting is historically, once Florida goes, then the Midwest ones that are really close end up going where Florida goes.
Yeah.
So, Florida's going to be imperative, but
it is, because if the Democrats take Florida, then I would almost venture to say it's pretty much going to be a Democratic landslide.
Yeah,
because just like you said, most of the other states follow Florida typically. That's usually the trend. So
yeah, I mean, he gets that. It could be.
You're going to have Missouri and all these other states going Democrat.
They'll say other things, but I really, I spent some time on this today, and I wanted to be really realistic about it. I mean, it's possible Arizona goes, but even you could see it just doesn't change much. At the end of the day, it looks like it's going to come down to Pennsylvania that Trump has to find a way to win. I mean, he could win Missouri, could win Michigan, but I think it really comes down to Pennsylvania. He's got to win Pennsylvania and Florida. If he wins Pennsylvania and Florida, then I think Trump wins. If Trump does not win Pennsylvania and or Florida, so Biden only really has to win one of them to make it extremely tight. I mean,
well, if he wins Florida, I would say that's it. If Biden wins Pennsylvania,
it's over.
It's over.
Yeah.
If he wins PA, then I think it's going to be kind of neck and neck.
But if he wins PA and loses Florida, I mean, what do you think, Fred? Have you taken a look at it?
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be real close. So I think the real learning point here is get your ass out and vote. All right?
Right. Do something.
Yeah, I mean, if I hear all this talking on Facebook and social media about this candidate, and then these people aren't even going to leave their house on election day.
And I'm going to tell you this. What's baffling to me is, first of all, I do want to say this. Trump ran one of the best elections in the history of America last time, and you cannot convince me different, because in every battleground state, he won by extremely small margins. And that is where he spent all his time the last 2 months of the election last time. He was a savage. I think he went to Ohio like 15 times.
Hey, so I got to bring in this one comment. I know we're not addressing comments right now, but this one comment is pretty pertinent. So Jacob's saying, hey, look, is New York in play?
No. Trump said that. I don't buy that. I think there are some people that won't vote because they're pissed off at de Blasio because it is a shit show there right now. But that's a dark blue state. I know Trump said that. I don't buy it at all. I think it's hyperbole.
Even after all the shenanigans de Blasio and Cuomo pulled, you don't think so?
No.
Thank you for saying it, Kenny. Thank you for saying it. Being honest, keeping it 100. Yeah, Trump talking out the side of his neck on that one.
Now, I'm going to tell you why he did it. Why he did it's actually smart, because I think
I get it.
He wants to see because it's kind of like California. There's a lot of people in New York that just don't vote because it's so dark blue. So I think Trump wants to say that, and then we'll see over the next couple of weeks if you can see that the polling change some, then maybe he'll feel like it's in play, but it's not in play. I'm just telling you. New York,
nowhere at this point anyway, right?
And people don't like de Blasio, but
I said nowhere at this point. At this point in the stage of the election game, it's nowhere close to being changed to.
Well, I mean, and we'll go ahead and pull it up real quick. So I just wanted to pull California's up as well. So California, Biden is plus 39, right? So I just don't want to ever hear anything about California Republican. That's why, just for people to know, for Democrats out there. So when they win the national popular vote, and you're going, well, yeah, look, we won the popular vote. When California, no Republicans are going out to vote in California. They're down by 38%. They're not voting. Okay, so the numbers would be different if they did. But I digress. Let's go back to New York, and I'll show you the polls there. There's just no way in a grain's hell. I heard that today. I got a kick out of it. Down by 24 points. You want to impress me? We'll go ahead and look at this a couple weeks from now. And if this thing's at 10, then I'll go ahead.
I'd be shocked. I'd be shocked.
I'll fall out my seat.
Yeah,
he will lose by more than 20 there. So it's just, to me, I get why he did it. It's funny to me that some people are so right wing that they say, yeah, it's in play. It's not.
So, hey, let's go right into the USPS conspiracy then. Is there any chance that this removal of mailboxes is going to slow voting to where Trump can get these numbers down?
You want to take it, Kenny, or you want me to hop on?
Well, first of all, I think it's a misunderstanding for people to. First of all, I think there's two parts of this. One, I think it's important for people to understand that the USPS is horrifically dog crap. And I'm going to go to it in here in a second so you can see the numbers, but it is completely a waste of money for our federal government. We allow them to borrow money and then they've stolen. It's basically the biggest Ponzi scheme. I've been speaking out against the USPS for a long time. It should be not ran by the federal government, because if Trump can skew an election, which I don't believe, it seems like old people are a push because you have a fair amount of conservative old people. And so the young people are not going to have a problem getting to the polls. They're not going to be voting via mail. Like, neither do most 21 through 35-year-old African Americans, which is supposed to be the big populist boost that they need. Those people can get to the elections. There's no problem. It's not going to affect the election. And I'll let Glenn jump in here in a second, but I do want to show this real quick. This is over the last 9 months. So I want to make sure people see this number right here. This number is $7.473 billion. Right here it says in millions, right? $1 billion in the last 9 months. In the last 9 months. And if you look back to 2018, when it goes through their liabilities, it says this is from their financial reports, okay? It says as of September 30, 2018, we have outstanding debt obligations to the federal bank, which is the federal government, for $13.2 billion. Okay. We also have underfunded health benefit fund liability, which means they've stolen from their own health fund $66.5 billion. So the way they want to fund this is by borrowing more money from the federal government. They also have borrowed $46.2 billion, or sorry, my bad, $25.1 billion from the CSRS, which anybody that's out there that's a federal government employee knows is the old retirement system there, and $18 billion from the FERS program, which is the new one. They've also borrowed $18.4 billion in, hold on, 18.4 and 25. Sorry. So if you add up the health benefit borrowed, $66 billion, and you add that to the federally borrowed money of $13.2 billion, and then the two retirement plans that they borrowed from, they owe over $1.2 trillion. Trillion dollars. So they are a Ponzi scheme that has stolen $1.23 trillion, and somehow we want this organization to continue. Go ahead, Glenn. Now go ahead.
So that's the federal government. I mean, the federal government steals money on all aspects. I mean, money has been stolen out of every single fund, from the general fund to, I mean, you know, the post office definitely is stealing money. I don't disagree with you there. I've said it. I've been saying it for years that the post office needs to have a restructuring of their infrastructure. But it cannot happen during an election year. It can't happen during an election year. It can't happen during a year where, you know, we have all these national tickets that are on the docket and ready to go. And just so people, Trump actually came out because Trump did another impromptu press briefing over the weekend, and he said, quote, "All ballots will be lost and we won't know the results for years." For years. I mean, like, how hyperbolic is that? That's a far stretch. Let me explain something to you guys. And by the way, if that were to happen, I don't know if anybody has told Trump this, but if that were to happen, he would stop being president as of January 20th. I don't know if he's aware of that. Yeah, like, so I don't. But he said it in his he said it like, you know, he would still go on to be president, things like that. But this is the thing. Let's just say we had to do universal mail-in ballots. If we had to do universal mail-in ballots, and they all had to be, I'm just, you know, throwing out an example or a scenario. If we were doing universal mail-in ballots and they all had to be, I guess, postmarked, if you will, by the 3rd, what would actually happen would be, of course, see, we're used to, as Americans, to getting the results midnight. That's not normal. Well, we wouldn't be waiting years for these results. We would probably get the results around November 8th, November 9th, which is fine. I mean, there are several other countries that, you know, have the same election process, and they don't get the results back for 4 or 5 days. It's normal. Why is it that Americans feel so entitled that we have to have the results by midnight? It doesn't have to happen that way. It's not a set in stone thing. And, you know, I think that, and I don't know if Freddie can still hear me. Freddie, if you can go ahead and post the picture that I sent. I took a picture earlier. This is a picture from my neighborhood, right outside of my neighborhood, where you see mail. They're actually collecting these mailboxes, and you have articles that have actually come out now and that are saying that, you know, these are just mailbox recycling trucks that you see. First off, I've seen mailbox recycling trucks. They usually don't come around and take as many mailboxes as what you see on that truck. And when they do come around, they take the mailboxes usually around 7 or 8 o'clock in the morning. And then by lunchtime, they have a replacement there. I took this picture. This isn't some internet stuff, right? So they're going around and collecting mailboxes. They're not even just getting rid of the separation machines. They're taking whole mailboxes. Now, Kenny's right. Someone like me, 37-year-old black guy, maybe even a 21-year-old, or let's just say 21 to 35-year-old black person, they're probably not going to the polls via mail, right? They're probably going to be able to make it to the polls. But what if, who knows? What if I got an injury? What if I couldn't make it? Right. And there's the picture. So what if I couldn't make it? What if for some reason, I wasn't able to drive myself. You just never know. It's about options, guys. You want American citizens to have options. That's all it's about. And so I think that this is a crisis on American democracy. This is awful. You've got Congress that can return as early as next week to confront this crisis. You have delayed mail. Oh, matter of fact, and this just got this word in. The House is coming back early. Definitely. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi actually sent a letter out to all of her colleagues saying that they're going to be getting together by the end of the week, if not the beginning of next week, to vote on legislation to stop the Postal Service from making any changes as of January 1st of this year. So Congress is coming back from their break early. It's official. And that just came in literally within the past 10 minutes, but I just got the note. So Kenny, what do you have on that? Kind of gave you a mouthful.
Well, a couple things. One, I mean, that's the same picture that I found online. So I don't know. Now, the one that I found online, it talked about the, if you go to, here you go. Hold on a second.
You on Facebook?
No, this is Mia Farrow put this out. This is the same exact picture. And as you go down, it says that the KATU said that the USPX, hold on a second, found out that the post box is removing them to replace them. So, I mean, they could say, hey,
bro, so many, dude. And that's the one thing that I would actually say Trump has been right on. Fake news. It's fake news. This would never happen. This would never happen. The threat on democracy. This is absolutely insane. This is insane. There's articles now that are. Go ahead.
People are the idea that removing the box is like this is first of all. They don't even have the information on this about when this was actually or who sent this or something. I mean, this is Mia Farrow checkbox with the same exact picture, and this picture is we don't know when this is from and even where it's at right now. This picture could have been taken a while ago. Nobody is having a hard time. It's so funny to me because Democrats have had the same argument that this was not good. I can give you 15 different times where mail-in ballots have made elections ended up getting vetoed, where it was invalidated. So there was one in North Carolina. There was another one.
I've seen Democratic nominees come out and basically say that you shouldn't be doing mail-in balloting.
They said that.
I agree. Mail-in ballots are the most inaccurate form of voting that you can do. I agree. But at the end of the day, and people seem to want to continue to break this up. You got mail-in ballots and you have absentee ballots, which still have to be mailed in. So it's all the same shit. You cannot suppress voters by taking away mailboxes. They have to have that option.
Nobody's taking away mailboxes. Again, nobody's taking away mailboxes. I mean, I'd like to see one article written about where they took away a mailbox and there's no mail.
You're not going to find an article on it.
Why not?
You're not going to find an article on it. You might find something on social media, but you're not going to find an article on it. The media is a joke nowadays. You don't even. There's no real journalism anymore.
Correct, but this would play exactly to what they would want. So it doesn't make any sense that now. First of all, absentee ballots. There's a difference between. First of all, the biggest problem with mail-in ballots. If people always talk about fraud, it's not even about the fraud. It's about when they're not filled out correctly, they get thrown in the trash. So if you want your vote to count, you're more likely to have your vote count if you go into a booth and put your voting in there. So what happens is when these things don't get counted right, and then all of a sudden the count comes out and they're like, there's 40,000 ballots. And they're like, well, hold on. 80,000 people went through there. And they're like, yes, but they were done wrong. Oh, well, how do I know mine wasn't done wrong? Because my name sounded black or my name sounded old or my birth date or this or that. There's so many different reasons why those ballots could get thrown out. It is just a poor process. I don't want anyone to be able to vote that can vote. And if I find out, like, again, if we find out that mailboxes are disappearing, if I know anybody that walks out and they can't find a mailbox within 20 yards of their house,
Well, and just for the record, they've been taking mailboxes. That's why you don't see them like that anymore.
Hey,
Over the
look,
past
The reason
decade.
they've been taking
That
mailboxes,
plan has been in
first of
effect
all,
way before Du Bois and
Yeah.
Trump. That
Yeah.
was to get the
This
postal
system-
service back in the
So we
black.
gotta be fair. We gotta be fair. They
Yeah,
have been taking mailboxes the past decade. That's why you don't see them like that.
Right,
But
and
right now, there's such a concerted effort to suppress this, man.
but according to who?
I mean, it's up for.
According to the same picture.
I mean,
not
it's
even
up.
the
It's
same
up for debate.
Everybody's
I mean,
saying
it's
the
up for
same
debate.
picture.
It's up for who you ask. It's up for debate. It depends on who you ask.
It's certainly up for debate, but if we know, because again, this is something that I think most Americans agree on not wanting a botched election. I know the media will tell us that one side wants it to be suppressed. I don't want anyone to be suppressed. I think Trump is going to win, not the popular vote, but I think he's going to win the electoral vote. But it's going to be very close. So those places, again, the picture that they showed was actually said out of California. And then the other picture that they showed was out of Oregon. Trump ain't winning neither of those places. Like 50%
You can take all the mailboxes they want.
Yeah.
He's still not going to
Yeah,
win.
you're going to have 4 mailboxes in California. He's going to lose 75% to 25. So, I mean, look, I want a clean election, but there's no reason. And first of all, we can fix this problem with 2 things. One, we really need to look into getting rid of the USPS. You cannot run a $10 billion deficit in any real company in the world. And the best argument that I heard, because I looked up a bunch of leftist websites about this, and the best argument that I heard was that certain people out in the middle of nowhere that are old can't get their stuff because it would be expensive for UPS to send it there. Our federal government could fund that for way cheaper for those, couple of 100,000 people that are really in that scenario to be able to get a UPS package. We could pay the difference, and it would be way less than than $1 trillion over 4 or 5 years. I mean, it's just crazy to me. We're running and actually it's about a $10 billion a year deficit. So that is crazy to me. I mean, plus all the interest, they're just never going to get caught up. It is a train wreck.
Oh yeah, they're never going to get caught up. It is a train wreck, and Congress, like I said, they are returning definitely either at the end of this week, beginning of next week. But they're also being heavily urged to get back to negotiations for COVID relief, and within that COVID relief, also includes billions for the post office. So,
which is probably why they're coming back. Now, I will tell you this:
with companies ran so efficiently, like FedEx and USPS, why do we have this place?
Well, here's the other interesting fact. This is hold on. I want to get this in. Then I'll let you go.
The federal government has their hand in UPS and FedEx and all that too. I mean, anytime if you're a logistics company, you're heavily regulated.
Yeah, but they don't get free supplementation.
Yeah. And they don't get bailed out like the post office.
Right, they haven't at this point. And if
but it's a crock of shit. I mean, look at all the big businesses that get bailed out, and you see nothing but corruption with the money. I mean,
before we get into that, because I don't want to leave the one point that I was going to make, which is the other thing people are talking about what Trump's doing. Well, part of what Trump's doing is not adding on. The USPS said we can't do this we can't do mail-in ballots without $25 billion in extra money. So, of course, if I'm Trump, or if you're Trump, or Fred's the president of the United States, then and somebody goes, hey, this total failure that may hurt your election, and we're going to do it $25 billion, you're going to be like, no, I don't have to help you fail. I don't have to help you fail. And I can step back and go, no, if you can do it. But I'm not going to help you to do it. Now, I understand that rubs some people the wrong way because Trump, and this shows everybody that he's being absolutely clear about the fact that he thinks it would hurt because he said that. He's like, I'm not going to help you try to beat me. And
that's cool too. And that's cool too. But the other side to that, really quick, and this is an interesting conversation. The other side to that is, so you bail out all of these companies in the private sector, but you won't bail out the post office.
They've been bailed out over and over again.
Obama and Bush did it, not Trump. Trump hadn't bailed out nobody except for the farmers, which the farmers, he's getting the money from the tariffs against China. He hasn't bailed anybody else out. I mean, he's only
been
so 3 years.
Hold on. What'd you say, Fred?
He bailed me out. I got a stimulus check, damn it.
Oh, a stimulus check. He has bailed our whole.
So Kenny, so he didn't bail out. I'm trying to pull it up here. There's a list of companies with this last stimulus. I'm trying to pull it up really fast.
I mean, they did do the small business fund, sure.
He did the small business fund that was actually taken. Yeah, that's not a bailout. And when I say bailout, it's not like an actual bailout.
I believe
with big companies. There's several major corporations that got bailed out with the small business fund. And some of them gave that money back. A lot did not.
We're all against that. So that was a failure of that was a bill passed. That was not an executive order. So that goes on both houses. That goes on the Democrats and the Republicans. I'm against bailouts straight across the board. Always have been. Corporate bailouts, no. And I would have let the banks fail because I think that they would have broken down into smaller banks and then have less. I think it would have helped people. I think helping the banks did not help the average Joe. It helped investors, but it did not help the average person. I don't think bailing out they bailed out Chevy. They bailed out GM.
Chevy.
And everybody thought it was great. But Ford's numbers are just as good as Chevy, and they didn't get a bailout. Yeah. So I'm not for bailouts. If Trump did, I didn't see any bailouts that he made. If he made one, I would certainly speak out against it if I knew about it. So if he did it in small print somewhere because I'm not for bailouts. So I'll speak out against him. Now I know. I mean, every bailout that I found that I Googled for him is all. They're calling them bailouts, which is a freaking cop out. You can't.
They're technically not bailouts. I mean, it's just part of the stimulus package.
You want to address the comments of the audience, or do you want to go into the next topic?
No. Well, let's go.
Let's address the comments because we don't really. The next topic is not really.
Hey, here we go. Ready? Let's do Portland. It's a shithole. Leave.
Yes.
I'm done.
Leave. Yeah, I was gonna say Portland right now is a shithole, and as much as I hate to say it, I mean, with you guys being a Democratic state, Democratic city, y'all making Trump look real good.
I mean, you guys don't want to bring feds back in. You're kicking people in the face. I mean, y'all are terrible.
It's bad, and I hate to admit it. I was really rooting for you guys, Portland, just like I was rooting for Seattle.
You were all
it's bad, man.
I was a swing and a miss on that one.
Look, when people are getting beat up, people are being jumped, people are dying. You just can't condone that. You just can't.
All right, so let's get into the comments for the night. A couple funny ones early from Jacob. Fred got a shape up. No, he got the COVID crew cut. The COVID crew cut. Yes, Kenny got one. Nope, Kenny still got his.
Now hold on. I want to comment on this. First of all, I did get a haircut. All right, and I'm gonna tell you this. The COVID is making my hair fall out. Now you can't really tell right now, but it is
really.
It's not COVID, Kenny. It's arguing on Facebook.
No, I mean I Googled it because for the first time in my life, like a week ago, I started running my hand through my hair. Like I'm like real like
big clumps of hair coming out.
Damn.
A small chunks of hair, yes. Not like alopecia where I got like bald spots, but yes, the hair is starting to come out. Now, I went on a different page, found out that some other people have had the same issue. So I don't know if eventually it's going to thicken back up or if I'm going to have.
Or if you got some kind of medication that just makes your hair fall out.
I mean, I'm not taking any medication. And the front
I meant for when you had COVID.
What?
When you had the COVID.
No, I mean, all you took was zinc.
Oh, okay.
Hey, I ain't gonna lie, that's a fresh haircut you got, Kenny, man.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it. Yeah, you know.
Yeah. You always got a fresh shape up, dude. I think you go every other day.
Yeah.
Oh, I see you got the little hard part too. I got that.
If anybody listening doesn't know, again, Wednesday we're gonna go live when we're watching the DNC and we're gonna be playing some bingo. Get your bingo charts ready. Jacob's got a couple answers out here. He said, "Yeah, you know." The thing. That's what Biden says. The thing.
Hey, Zach Rourke said I got the alt-right cut. I thought about that because it pressed my hair down.
It's right. I got that. Hey, Kenny, you got the luscious locks, man. You got the luscious locks.
He got the Mein Kampf cut.
I know.
And then back to the bingo, he says, "Hey, Biden says, you know."
Listen, look. As of right now, you got to everybody has to stop talking shit about Biden. He has not messed up like his past 3 speeches. If anything, Trump has been messing up. He can't talk shit.
Today he messed up.
Oh, did he mess up today? I didn't see the one today. So he did?
Kenny mentioned it earlier. He said
indulgent. A whole video on it.
What did he say? Indulgent or something like that?
No, he said, dang it. Hold on a second. I'm gonna tell you I thought it was the
keep going down. So we asked the question to our audience. Hey, look, with the
increases
exponentially.
That's a new one.
Replacing the N for a D, huh?
Yeah, right. Yeah. But that's how they say it in California, Glenn. That's how they say it in California.
Yeah, right.
Oh, Mark Ridley on the mic.
Yeah. So we had Zach again. He said, "Hey, we don't want everybody voting. Let everybody stay home." Maybe that might be true. I don't know.
I think Trump don't want everybody voting.
I want people informed. I want people voting. I want everybody voting. Yeah, I think we need to have more. We need to change some things, but you got to pick the right time because there's always a vote.
I mean, everybody knows Maryland always goes Democratic. And Zach says, "Hey, look, even if I vote and everybody Republican in Maryland votes, we're still going to lose the state." He's probably right about that.
Maryland's been close, so it's really up
Maryland
to the
has been close.
Done a crappy job of,
Maryland's been close.
What?
Yeah, I mean, you got to. Larry Hogan, Republican governor. I mean, it's
barely.
I mean, barely, but yeah.
And I think when we were talking about this, yes, isn't it constitutionally protected? I'm pretty sure that they are. That's why they're still around.
No,
it is. It is, and that's why.
The right to receive mail is. So they could definitely, as long as those people have to be able to get mail. You have to be able to get and receive mail. So that's why I said that they could do it through a third party, like they could subsidize the difference between UPS delivering that package, but they couldn't just say, "Hey, no, you can't do it." So this
is the thing, guys. What people don't realize is I used to work for UPS a long time ago, but I used to be a UPS driver, and I know how this whole thing works. What's that?
With Sean?
No. I was a UPS driver up in like the Philly area. I was doing like Philly and South Jersey, but the way it works, guys, and especially around the holidays, UPS actually the post office rather gets backed up. Not only does the post office get backed up, but so does UPS and FedEx. So a lot of times, if you notice, especially around the holidays, if you order something and it's expected to come UPS, but sometimes it'll show up FedEx, or sometimes it'll show up Postal Service, right? Because they end up using each other. So if you were to just hypothetically shut down the post office right now, UPS is not set up. Their infrastructure is not set up to be able to take on all of that overhaul, all of that excess work that's coming over from USPS. It wouldn't happen.
Well,
so there's got to be a better way.
It could happen because what would happen is you would have.
Hell no.
I disagree. I disagree.
They would do it. How come it doesn't happen during the holidays? You got UPS
over 80% of your mail is junk mail. If all that wasn't coming in, it would substantially slow down the USPS. It does. And so if you didn't have that, because then people would have to pay more to be able to send it, it would cut it down. No doubt in my mind. Plus, if there was...
Do you think that would be a good thing, though? I mean, look, we talk about junk mail, but at the end of the day, this is a capitalist society. That junk mail is somebody's business.
Yeah, but so what?
That's somebody's advertising.
Somebody has to advertise and pay more money for their advertising. That's okay. It's a capitalist society. So somebody will find a way to deliver those packages better.
When's the last time you advertised something or marketed something? You know how expensive it is? It's expensive, though.
Advertise?
It's a lot. It's already high. It's already expensive. A business wouldn't survive if you raise price on marketing.
That's what a capitalist society does. A capitalist society does not depend on a government-ran UPS system. If UPS goes down tomorrow, there will be a company that comes in that does it a better way, that finds a way to make it not lose. You know what? Yes.
I agree. Sure. But it wouldn't happen overnight.
You're losing.
Wouldn't happen overnight.
You're losing $10 billion a year. Well, let me start a company and lose $10 billion a year.
No, and I just read U.S. Postal Service is not constitutionally, like, it's not, they don't need to save it.
Not, like I said, you just have to have, there is certain rights that are inherent to the mail system. So you have to be able to have that.
It is mentioned in the Constitution. It's not provided by the government, no.
Yeah, and then they want to deter people from tampering with mail, so it's automatically a federal charge and a felony, things like that. So, but the entity USPS, the entity itself, is not protected by the federal government. All of the logistics that actually happen outside of the actual entity are protected. So the mail, the drivers, all that stuff's protected. The delivery, it's all protected. But yeah, Biden
got blonde. I was reading it too. Biden got the blonde leg hairs that need kids to lay them straight.
Oh, Zach,
they all are terrible, man.
Man, I showed my kid that video, and then the guy says, "Oh, I like when little kids sit on my lap." What, Joe?
Yeah.
Joe, stop saying that.
Yeah. So, all right, let's get into our statements, guys. Who wants to go first here?
Go ahead, Glenn.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and kick it off. Thank you guys for being with us tonight. I hope everybody had a great weekend. Happy Monday to everybody. Looking forward to a nice, productive, and hopefully healthy week for everybody. And just to recap really quick, I would probably venture to say main topic of the evening was the mail-in ballots, or the Postal Service conspiracy, if you will. I've always said from the beginning that the Postal Service, the United States Postal Service, just to be clear, needs to go under a major reform in terms of the way that they run their infrastructure and everything. I've always known that there's been a lot of corruption there, but I mean, that's our entire government. I mean, there's a lot of corruption all over the place. I mean, there's money that just the government's got their hands in the pot. People have their hands in the pot, and it's starting to show. And I think what you're actually beginning to see now is all of that corruption is starting to come to a head. And now the post office needs to be bailed out. So they're going to be negotiating on this next stimulus, and the post office has billions and billions in I guess bailout money, if you will, on the docket. So that's actually part of it. So they're going to be talking about that and discussing it as well too. If you get rid of the Postal Service, it could work. And just like Kenny talked about, my counterpart here, he said that there would be another company, this is a capitalist society, that would come up and take the place. Sure, I agree. I just don't think it would be rapid. That sort of thing takes time. A logistics company like FedEx, read the story on FedEx, it took them about 25 years to really get up and running. Like, they've been trying to do logistics for a while. So it's not just an overnight thing. And then there's also a lot of legislation that comes with a new logistics company also, believe it or not. So thanks again for being with us tonight, guys. We will be live Wednesday watching the Democratic National Convention, talking a whole lot of smack, playing some bingo and all that. So make sure you guys turn in. Thanks again.
What's up, everybody? First of all, I agree with what Glenn said, that it's not going to happen overnight, but the new company can happen overnight. It'll take a while to get any systems up and going. It also takes a while. First of all, you'd be able to buy stuff from the USPS, so you could essentially take it over and have it privatized, and they could start making the adjustments immediately. So they would already have much of their systems already set up. So that would be the thing. You wouldn't disband that and then start a brand new one. You would have so much. You have buildings, things like that. You do an overhaul, and then you'd raise prices. It's not very difficult to make a business successful. Lots of people do it all the time. So there's also ways that they can do it. At the end of the day, I want everybody to be able to vote. And the best way to be able to make people feel like they're free to vote is to have options. But we also have to be consistent with that. Having politicians a couple years ago that on the Democrat side saying you can't do mail-in ballots, and then now that their demographics are coming back on their, the little reports that they do, and now it's coming back, it's going to be good for them. Now they want to do it. We should have a federalized system of voting. It is a federal thing. I like most things handled by the state, but when it comes to voting, that's a right that we have. have through our Constitution. Everybody has that right. I do think it's horrible what happened to Little Cannon. I'm not going to really bring it up anymore because I think I pointed out the injustices there in terms of from the media standpoint, not from the policing. And look forward to Wednesday. I think Wednesday is going to be a lot of fun. I hope people come with an open mind, regardless of what side you're on. You need to be able to come up. You should be able to hear good ideas from both sides. So my hope is that they have some good ideas that I can agree with. And then the same when the Republican Party does theirs. So glad everybody came out today. Appreciate you guys out on Monday. And that's it for me.
Hey, man, you guys brought it again. I love it. Every night we do something different. You guys always are on point with the data, especially all the charts we get in the background and the pictures. I'm sure the audience digs on it too. Appreciate everybody tuning in. Again, it was a Monday night, so I know, wasn't a lot going on, but we love having y'all tune in and watch us. We appreciate it. Hit the like button on our page, please, on the YouTube page, the Facebook page. Email us. Let us know what you want talked about. We'll discuss it. We don't have any shame in our game. We'll bring it up. All right. So, hey, let us know what you want us to talk about. We'll always be around. And again, we appreciate all y'all coming out. Nothing but love and respect. And we'll see y'all on Wednesday, man. Have a good night.